أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. I usually start my talks with this dua because it's a dua that Musa alayhi salam said before he went to approach Pharaoh. And this is a dua that I often associate when I have to do something difficult. And speaking after Imam Suhaib, let me tell you, is not an easy task. So inshallah, bear with me, inshallah. And what I'd like to talk a little bit about is talking about tests in life. We've been talking about the Renaissance and all that what it implies and all we have to do at the community level, the local level, and all the very different issues that we will encounter, as Dr. Tariq Ramadan was speaking about earlier. But one of the aspects we tend to forget about are the challenges we face internally. Each and every one of us can remember moments in our lives, situations, difficulties where we've been in agony, we felt heartbreak, really upset and sad, crying in the darkness. Each one of us can remember an incident that we ourselves have experienced or a loved one has experienced, and it was challenging and it was hard to go through that. And it's important for us to realize the fact that each and every one of us, from the beginning of mankind to the end of humanity, will be faced with challenges from the time of our birth till the time of our death. This is the sunnah of Allah. This is the way of Allah. And Allah reminds us in the Qur'an, لا تبلغن في أموالكم وأنفسكم. You will surely be tested by your possessions and yourselves. We will be tested. We have been tested from the prophets at the beginning of the time. When we look at the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see from the time he was small, he never saw his father. He never knew him. He barely saw his mother, who died and passed when he was 6. Now, for those of you who are parents, that's a scary thought, to have your child left alone and not really knowing who will take care of them. And yet the Prophet ﷺ experienced those early tragedies. And I want you to think about that, because we'll come back to that later on. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his infinite mercy, told us and reminded us that you will be tested. And he does so that we can be mentally prepared for what's to come. But as Al-Khaliq, as the Creator, he also knows who we are. He created us. He knows what our situation is. He knows where we need to be tested. He knows where we need to grow. He, in his infinite mercy, also reminded us that whatever trial or tribulation that we are given, it is one that we can handle. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. On no soul does Allah bear a burden greater than it can bear. So not only has he mentally prepared us for the challenges that we will encounter, but he's also promised us that whatever challenge we face, it will be a challenge that we can handle. It may feel so hard to bear when we miscarry our child. It may be hard when we end up in a situation where there's a divorce. It may be hard and a struggle when you see that child that you loved and nurtured now addicted to heroin. These are all challenges and trials that we will face in some shape, way, or form. And Al-Khaliq, the Creator, in his infinite mercy and wisdom, tailors the challenges that we experience to what we need. What is our situation? What can we handle? What can we not handle? He knows. And he reminds us another promise of his. And for those who fear Allah, he always prepares a way out. Fear not. He has prepared a way out for you. And he provides for him sources he could never imagine. Whatever the challenge you have, there is a solution. And it may come from the strangest of places, but it's there. So Allah continues. And he always prepares a way out, and he provides for him sources he could never imagine. And if anyone puts his trust in Allah, sufficient is Allah for him. For Allah will surely accomplish his purpose. Verily, for all things has Allah appointed a due proportion. Now, when we think about these ayats, these true signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know that one, he's promised us, we're going to be tested. Every one of us. Our tests are going to look different, but they're tailor-made for ourselves. They're going to look different, but whatever it is, we can handle it. And for each situation, there is a way out. So then the next question is, these tests are happening. What's the point of it? What's the purpose? And Allah again reminds us, وَبَلَوْنَاهُمْ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ تَرْجِعُونَ. Right? We have tried them both in prosperity and adversity in order that they may turn to us. So these challenges have a purpose. These challenges are meant to build our character and return to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to enjoy the blessings of the akhirah, to enjoy the blessings of Jannah. And he helps us refine our ways through these trials, and he does so lovingly, each time showing us different promises to help us ease the burden and the hurt and the pain that these trials may impact us. And the Prophet ﷺ reminds us, indeed amazing are the affairs of the believer. They're all for his benefit. If he is granted ease, then he is thankful, and it is good for him. And if he is afflicted with hardship, he perseveres, and this is good for him. So no matter what our situation is, no matter how difficult it is all good for us. And it is a reminder that in every situation, every trial, there is good. And if we go back to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, it is a beautiful reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds him, Alam yajidaka yatima fa'awa, ووجدك ضالا فهدى, ووجدك عائلا فأغنى. Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge? And he found you lost and then guided you. And he found you poor and made you self-sufficient. Again, all these earlier experiences in his early childhood. He experienced the pain and the tragedy of not having his parents around him. But that very pain was helpful in helping him form the mercy, the humility, the love he had for the people around him. It helped strengthen his understanding and the need to be sensitive to those in pain. It helped develop that sense of social consciousness and the need to take care of people and look after people no matter what their circumstances are. And so when we look at the early life of the Prophet ﷺ, each situation, if you really analyze it, Each trial and tribulation is helping to build his character, helping to bring him closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that when the time came to take and give the message of Allah, to prepare the message and to share it with all humanity, he had the character that was needed. We need to learn from this lesson. These trials and tribulations that we experience and that we have, there are trials and tribulations to strengthen our character, to strengthen our personalities, so that we can become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we can benefit those around us, so that we can become better individuals, so that we can go and to the path that's most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we think about it, when we reframe this understanding of these challenges, then the despair that often accompanies difficult situations is now channeled towards understanding, well, what's in this trial for me? And what can I do to better my situation? And that moves us to the next important task. Not only do we need to reframe and do a paradigm shift in how we understand these trials and tribulations, but we also need to find meaning and personal growth from these challenges and take action. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, إِنَّ اللَّهُ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change a condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Despite whatever reframing you do and thinking about the situation in the trial, ultimately you need to make change in the situation. If you're struggling in your marriage, you can't just say, inshallah, something will happen. You need to work to change. Do some readings, talk to individuals, get counseling if you need to. But do make that change, because until you start making that change, nothing's going to happen. You're going to continue doing this more of the same. And the Prophet ﷺ once saw a Bedouin who had left his camel to just be. And he asked him, why don't you tie your camel? And the Bedouin said, I put my trust in Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, tie your camel first and then put your trust in Allah. We need to do the amal. We need to do the work. We may do the dua, but you also need to do the work. And so first do the work and then make the dua. And it's important so that we realize that as we continue the struggles, and we will continue facing the struggles from the time we're born to the time you die, that we also make change. We work on ourselves. We work on ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, intellectually. We surround ourselves with individuals who can help us towards that path. Sometimes when we're down in the dumps, it's hard for us to see what is the character building experience in this opportunity. It's harder for us to get out of the hole that we've sunk into and find the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you have those peers and those individuals around you, either friends, family, it helps you get you through this difficult challenge. It's important to also remember that as we think about the challenges and deal with the issues upon us, that we also continue to remember the other blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. To remember that despite the trials and tribulations we have, if we really think about and count the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, that those blessings will dwarf those trials. And so constantly remembering those blessings is also important. And as we go through those changes and try to better our situation, we realize that we will fall down. We will hit hurdles. We will encounter challenges. But we need to get back up. We need to continue that struggle. And we need to realize that it's going to be a long process, and it's going to be a very scary process sometimes. But also realize there's a promise with that as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us again in the Qur'an, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَىٰ. And he who feared to stand before his Lord and restrain himself and his desires, most surely will paradise be his abode. It's easy to give up and say, forget about it. It's easy to say, I'm not going to deal with this, whatever, let it be. It's much harder to control ourselves and our desires and say, no, I'm going to pick myself back up and I'm going to deal with this situation. And so as I conclude, it's important for us to realize that these trials are opportunities for growth. We can choose to take these opportunities. We can choose to benefit and grow from them. Or we can choose to continue in the rat race. We can continuing racing with the Jones, trying to keep up with the Jones, trying to run around in this dunya and trying to keep up with everybody. Or we can start thinking and planning and focusing about how to use these experiences and invest in the akhirah. It is truly our choice, and we must reflect on the implications for our akhirah. Ya Allah, we ask that you grant us peace and patience and wisdom and courage when we are faced with our trials and for the trials that others are going through. We ask that you help us find meaning and personal growth from these situations and help us benefit from our trials so that this process brings us closer to you, is pleasing to you, and will be of benefit to us on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Jazakallahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
May Allah reward both of our speakers today. Just some housekeeping. There's a lost child. He's 13 years old. His name is Yusuf. If the parents are here, please go to the registration booth. Stay in your seats, inshallah. The next lecture will start in probably 3 to 4 minutes. The title is called Body, Mind, and Soul. So stay tuned. May Allah reward you guys. Jazakallah khair.